cool. I didn't even want to holler at her. I just wanted to connect with her. And
get out of here. Don't tell me you don't want to holler at her. You just called her gorgeous.
No, she was bad, man. But here's the thing. When you learn conversation skills, you can talk to almost anybody. And once you start to talk to them, you figure out who they are pretty quickly.
That's fair.
And you're like, it's not even that big of a deal to even be hot on you like that.
Oh, really? So wait, so time out. So you met somebody that you initially were attracted to romantically, and in conversation, they ended up as a little sister?
In my mind, mentally.
Ladies, this is how you end up in the friend zone, okay? I'm just playing. Stop saying too much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Introspect Club, a club where you can learn a lot about yourself through conversations with other people. My name is Jeff Damisse, and I'll be your host. Now, we're going to have a very interesting conversation today. Emphasis on the word conversation. Everybody knows that I like to converse with people, have like interesting dialogue. I'm very natural at it, some would say, but I could use some work. But there are a lot of people who struggle, especially when they're like trying to figure out how to communicate with someone that they potentially care about, or someone that they're trying to get to know, or just even in business. A lot of people struggle to like have the proper dialogue with people. And it's partly because of either how they're raised or what kind of culture they grew up around. And sometimes it's just a matter of like confidence that they might not possess, right? I used to be a shy kid when I first came into this country, and I had to work the nerve to like talk to people mainly for survival reasons. And luckily, like I was raised by like, a parent that was, well, both my parents, but one of my parents was extremely confident. And a lot of that stuff came natural to me because of that. But I know people who struggle with that. So I want to bring somebody onto the stage who can kind of help people build the confidence to speak appropriately, eloquently, and effectively. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest today. This person is a 5-time author. Okay. I don't know that many people who are one-time authors, let alone even wrote an essay. 5-time author, as well as a professional conversation coach. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Darius Brown. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? First of all, it's kind of hard to come after that introduction, and also how you introduced yourself and how you came up. So thank you for that introduction. No problem. Shout out to that dope intro music, because I almost started freestyling.
It felt like it, right? It felt like I was in the studio. I was like, wait a minute. Hey. I'm not mad at it, man. I'm not bad at it. Give the audience a little bit of background about yourself. Give us a quick little pitch so we can get familiar with you, so they know what your mission is and what you're about.
No, for sure. So I am a conversation coach. I help people close the gap in their conversations that lead to disconnection. Inherently, I help people ask questions in a way that make people want to answer, and respond in a way that keeps the conversation going and deepens connections.
Got it. So what was what was the obvious point for you that said, okay, people need help in conversations? Because a lot of things it's like really passive, and people assume that they're communicating because they're speaking English or they're speaking the same language as the other person. Okay. So what was the triggering point for you that said, okay, people need help with conversations?
You asked such a good question. It goes back to me, honestly, being a counselor. I was a counselor for the Department of Juvenile Justice at one point. And when I was being taught on how to engage with the teens that were coming out of these detention centers, I didn't know how bad of a listener I was until I went through motivational interviewing 101 and effective questions 101 and active listening 101. We had to get certified in these areas before we became a counselor.
Got it.
And man, the homework they gave us, I started to practice it. And I instantly saw how my connection with people increased when I started to practice conversation skills to really build deeper connections with people. And so I can share a story if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So one of the homework assignments was to use, of course, the tools we were learning: active listening, motivational interviewing, and effective questions on one, all those things. And we had to document our homework. So they said, use it with someone over the phone or someone that you meet or whatever it may be. So when I get back to my hotel, there's this gorgeous young lady. I still remember her name, Rebecca De La Rosa.
Okay.
She was like,
oh, you remember her name because you probably thought she was fine.
Oh, she was fine. This is like 2011 to 12. So that was my thought. Like, oh my goodness, what is she doing working at this front desk?
And you over here like, hi.
Hello, Rebecca. Right now. No,
you thought you were going to come out like smooth, like James Bond. Hello, love. Meanwhile,
hello, no, listen, I didn't even, I don't even remember how I introduced myself. I just remember we sat at that front desk and talked for about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay.
And it was from practicing the active listening skills, practicing effective questions, how to ask those, practicing those things on how do you really get to know somebody. So I had to put to use what I was being taught in my workshops to become a counselor. For homework, I had to put it to use with somebody. So I did it with her. And I ended up learning so much about her family background. She, at one point, ended up in tears talking about her background, how she grew up, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And, from that, we just became cool. I didn't even want to holler at her. I just wanted to connect with her. And
get out of here. Don't tell me you don't want to holler at her. You just called her gorgeous.
No, she was bad, man. But here's the thing. When you learn conversation skills, you can talk to almost anybody. And once you start to talk to them, you figure out who they are pretty quickly.
That's fair.
And you're like, it's not even that big of a deal to even be hot on you like that.
Right.
And that's what it was. When you start getting to know somebody, it's like, you cool people. So you're like a little sister. I can't even talk to you like that from what I'm finding out.
Oh, really? So wait, so time out. So you met somebody that you initially were attracted to romantically, and in conversation, they ended up as a little sister?
In my mind, mentally.
Ladies, this is how you end up in the friend zone, okay? I'm just playing. Stop saying too much. Just be cute.
No, man. But
I'm so trash. It's true though. Sometimes you can talk yourself out of your objective. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying like that's like my potentially a minute example of how conversations can shift the dynamic of a relationship, even if it's just beginning, right? So right. Go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
What you said was so perfectly said. It can shift the dynamics of a relationship, even if it's just beginning, because it's important to know somebody, right? Rather sooner than later. And when you have the right conversation skills, you practice the right conversation skills, you can get to that point rather than existing in your ignorance. And then later on being heartbroken. And so she was so fine. Any man on this planet would have talked to her. Okay. But she went from just being this really good looking woman that a lot of guys talk to, just being a human. Because of the conversation skills I was able to practice. So from that moment, I was like, I need to really improve my conversation skills and be very intentional about how I connect with people. And that sent me on the journey to being a conversation coach. To really help people connect.
So that interaction right there, as transformative as it was the catalyst to you wanting to be a conversation coach.
That, unbeknownst to me, when I look back at the genesis of it, that was that time where I saw in real time, where I took from the classroom of the workshop and took the information I was studying and applied it, filtered it through my own life. And I saw in real time how it could work and impact people's lives.
So did you get her number? Did you take her out? What happened?
No, that became the homie. We got a number. So I ended up going to the gym with her, right?
Okay.
Because I needed the gym to go to. So she was like, oh, I have membership at this gym. And so I took my boy I went to training with. He came because he was a workout head at that time. I wasn't really a workout head. I just wanted to go.
Yeah.
And we both got into the gym for free through her. And then I went to a church that Sunday, that weekend, and she pulled up as well, too. You know,
did you end up dating this woman? Because it seems like you're seeing her quite often.
Nah. It was just that weekend when I was in town for training.
I'm trolling you, man. Don't even pay attention.
I know it. It's all love. I'm rolling with you.
So wait. So who's typically like the most common demographic for clients of yours that need help conversing?
True. This is a pointed question.
Okay.
It's really high achieving women. High
achievement women need help conversing.
High achieving women need help conversing personally.
Oh, so so what I'm picturing is women who are of like high accolades, who are very accomplished professionally.
Yeah.
Suck at conversing socially.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean,
why is that?
So, and I love that you give me the segue to describe this. Here's why it happens. Our women, specifically our Black women, but women in general.
To
be honest, have been taught to take care of themselves, have been taught to go get the degrees, have been taught to go get the house, taught to really depend on themselves because the man is not going to be there. They're not taught to go get a husband, all right? For most women, especially women coming from the era of the crack era, right? Of the drugs era, things of that nature. It's like, take care of yourself. Go and get that degree. Get 2 degrees if you need to. Like, be successful, whatever it may be. So they spend a lot of time working on their professional development and scholastic development. That personal development and personal connection is sometimes gone. And they consciously they know what they're doing. They have consciously sacrificed it, or they look back and say, you know what? I spent all this time building myself up financially and scholastically and all these things. I want a husband now. But now how do I connect with that person?
But how is that? Why is that more of a woman issue and not also a man issue?
It's a man issue too. But what I've noticed just from my observations is that a lot of women have struggled with it because men we're taught to chase and pursue. The skills we need to learn to chase and pursue, we have to learn that a lot quicker. Right?
When you say chase and pursue, like, are you talking career or are you talking about like romantic partnerships?
Women. Yeah, partnerships. We're taught to go out there and get it. Like, we want somebody, go get it. Go talk to her. Like, you know what I'm saying? Women are taught to, if a man wants you, he'll come to you. You know, women will more so kind of sit back and wait for that man to come. But while they're sitting back, quote unquote, they're really going to get this bag. Now, men are focused on getting the bag, but men, we're going to holler at this woman. We're going to try to talk to her, get this number. So we have to learn certain skills. Not saying that men have it all together, because they can definitely learn a whole lot, trust and believe. But men had to learn certain skills to even talk to a woman, how to get better, to get a certain woman or get this woman, or even with dealing with other men and conflict resolution. Because if you don't know how to deal with certain things, you one conversation away from getting punched or getting beat up or even being killed. And so men have a lot more pressure on them on how to communicate properly. Because sometimes a woman can come out of her mouth crazy to a man and there's no consequence.
Yeah, but see, that final point you made kind of contradicts the why a woman would be in bigger need of having, conversation skills. If what you're saying is, in order for a man to eat out here in these streets, for lack of a better words, right, to court a woman, be in the presence of a woman that he's interested in, he has to be sharp with his tools, right?
Hopefully.
Well, I mean, that's the idea as a hunter. But to your point, you're saying a woman doesn't have to be as effective with their words if the man's the hunter, right? So what is she gaining by improving her conversation? I mean, I'm kind of being facetious, but I'm also speaking to the generalities of the point to understand the value here.
I love that you're like bringing it out. as well too, and giving me the space to kind of explore it.
Right.
So I'm enjoying this. Here's the thing. Most women can skate by on their looks.
Yep, that's true.
Right. And when they skate by on their looks, they will say, why do I need to learn conversation skills when I can just get what I need to get? But it's always short term.
Okay.
It's always short term things. But when women start looking for things that are long term and meaningful, you have to learn the conversation skills that's needed to maintain.
Got it.
Attain and maintain that person. Right. So a lot of women, especially if you're going towards the South in Atlanta, the Houstons and things of that nature, just everywhere. But a lot of women are big on having their house, right? Not just an apartment, but having their house, right? Having that nice car and looking good while doing it, and having their friends that they hang out with while doing so. But then if you don't have those conversation skills to keep that man or attain that man or whatever it may be, then it won't be long term. You just keep having episodes with short-term episodes with people off the strength of your looks and your cool personality temporarily until it's time to have real consistent conversation.
No, that's true. And I think another element, and this is just an opinion, right? Like, I think another element that needs to be taken into consideration is like a woman pursuing her career and doing things to increase her accolades. Although, like, pragmatically, it's a value, right?
Yeah.
But it's not an immediate value to a lot of men.
Right.
I find it valuable, right? Just because I want a woman who's smart, who's, got stuff going on. But like, I think a lot of times a man who's pursuing accolades and wealth and success, education by itself is an aphrodisiac. You see what I'm saying? So that adds to his value.
His luster.
Exactly. Right. And a woman who's doing the same might have to go the extra mile of doing the things that are naturally attractive to men. Yeah. Because she's not going to go to school, have all these accolades, come out and, because that's the saying that, get your own, do this. And like, don't worry about a man until you get your degree and so on. That's great. Right. But she's still competing with the barista.
Right.
At Starbucks.
And the cashier at Walmart.
Who's got a nice smile, a nice fit, and charming as all hell for whatever reason. You know what I mean? And then a woman who conditioned her mind to work in the environments that are traditionally men. I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying it comes with a certain energy that might take away from the feminine charm. You know what I mean? So
yes.
Yeah.
Man, the way you just laid that out was so dope because again, just because you got your degree, you got your job and things of that nature, and it doesn't mean that we find you attractive now. We find attractive what we find attractive.
Right.
You can be attractive and have all these things. Yeah. But again, like you said, that Starbucks barista can be attractive too and have better conversation skills, conflict resolution skills, a certain grace about herself that will make us want to talk to her more than you. Yeah.
Yeah. But it also depends on the man too, because there are certain men, right, including myself, but only to a certain degree, where like the accolades and the upper echelons of like, the prestige of who you are as a person will drive it home for them. But that's only a particular selection of men. And even those men have other attributes that they probably put in the forefront, but they're just not saying it. You know what I mean?
That's very true. I see what you're saying when you say that, because you're not just going to talk to a Starbucks barista if that's her dream is just to be a barista.
Sure, right? Exactly.
Right. You want her to have other attributes about herself that like ambition, a certain vision. Like she could be a barista. She may want to be a professional barista. Let's start your own barista business. Maybe you can start a barista coaching company where you can coach people on how to be great baristas and train, whatever it may be. Like, what do you have vision with what you have going on? Not just, you just want to be who you are at this moment. And I think that men, we love a woman with vision who wants to be bigger than where she is. Not just, I got this house, I got this nice job, or I got this house, I got this nice business, and that's what makes me good enough and I look good. No.
But let me ask you something. What's a typical, like, conversation flaw that a woman will have in her social life? Like, give me an example. Like give me like a banter that would happen where you see like this is what women are saying, but it's not working.
Oh man, you just dropped a heavy question on me. So then it's a litany of conversation flaws that can happen, but one of the main ones is that woman not having the ability to respond a certain way.
What does that mean?
So, for example, people communicate, like you said before, on the level of their upbringing or professional development.
Sure.
And so when women are really professional development focused and things of that nature, and they're missing that middle ground of conversation, of personal conversation, they're going to communicate as if they're talking to you from their profession.
Okay. What does that even sound like? I just want to make sure.
So even if the woman's a teacher, she's going to sometimes talk to you as if you're a kid. Okay, so tell me about this. Is that how you felt it? Or a therapist, right? She's going to talk to you like a therapist. If she's a lawyer, she may be more direct and curt with you, like you're on trial for something, right? Without understanding how to really
I've dated lawyers, so I know.
So you know the drill, right? Even with nurses are taught how to respond and speak to in a way in nursing school when speaking with certain patients.
Okay.
So you will speak on the level of your upbringing or professional development or both. And that's not going to fly when you're striving to connect with somebody. You know, sometimes you don't even know which questions to ask somebody when I've seen that, because here's the thing. The journey of a woman becoming a better conversationalist, a professional, high achieving woman, is when she's done some self-work first. When she's done some sense of therapy, or counseling or whatever it may be.
About what? Like, is it you feel like every woman who's a professional requires like some type of counseling because she's in that space? Or
all of us require that, bro. Not just women, but if a woman has gone through life and she's doing professional development, grinding, lawyer, doctor, nurse, whatever, all these things to get the house and all these things. Well, sometimes what's really left off is that inner healing part, because you've been so focused on grinding, so focused on getting those things done. Not saying it can't be done at the same time. But when a woman does that self-work and does that healing, she starts to have better conversations with herself. Okay.
And you feel like that's more prudent for women compared to men?
It's for everybody. But we're talking about women right now, right? It's for everybody, right?
Okay.
I did therapy and, have done my sessions and still doing work on myself. So my conversations with people have changed.
Got it.
Dramatically.
Okay.
It's the same thing with women doing that professional development on themselves. The self-work on themselves. When you do that, the conversation you have with yourself is totally different. And so therefore the questions you'll ask to somebody will be to see how they are on their journey. You really start to explore people instead of figuring out what they have.
What do you mean? Instead of figuring out what they have, what do you mean?
Sometimes we operate in the space of figuring out what people are, not who they are.
Okay. So what's a question that's I want to know what you are compared to who you are.
Jeff, you live in New York.
Yeah.
I've lived in Brooklyn before for years. And I'm from Jersey, right? So if you meet somebody on the train or at a function or whatever it may be, the top two questions will be, okay, what's your name? What do you do?
What do you do? I live, breathe, and eat.
At top two, what's your name and what do you do?
They might not even ask for the name.
Sometimes the name is left out. It's like, hey, all right, so what do you do?
You know what's funny about that? Like, I made it a habit to like have conversations with people without giving them my name. Right. And I do that because, and I learned this years ago, almost a decade ago. Right. A lot of people are going around introducing themselves to people without knowing if the people wanted to know who they were in the first place.
Hello.
Right. So I'll have like, whether it's like a 2-minute conversation, sometimes even an hour conversation. And then when the conversation is done, or if I got to go, I'm just like, hey, it was nice to meet you. I might ask them for their name because, if I, find them of value at that moment, I'll be like, what's your name? And this is guy, girl, anybody, right? What's your name? Right. And then I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. And then I part ways. Now, if they really gave a damn about who you were as a person, they would say, hey, what's your name? Right. If they don't ask for my name, then I don't need to give it. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. And then I at least know to some degree where I stand in their lives to some, for that particular moment. You know what I mean? And I've had that happen in multiple ways where sometimes I'll be 5 minutes in, they'll be like, wait, what's your name? And I'm like, oh, okay. Right.
Now you care.
Right. And sometimes they'll be like, I'll be having a very, invigorating conversation that might be very beneficial to them. But then at the end of the conversation, they're like, thank you for feeding me this conversation. But they don't even give a damn who you like. A lot of that happens, especially in New York.
That's in New York. It happens a lot of places though.
Yeah.
I love that. I love how you laid out that story of those examples. And when you were speaking, I was like, yo, he's telling my story. He's like,
I didn't mean to tell you the
story. Yo, he's telling my story because this happens all the time with me. So I can relate to you on that. I understand, like when you say like I give to people, talk to them. I think names are putting labels on valuable conversations, and so that's what it is for me. I can talk to somebody, and be cool, hey, yeah, great, all right. But if it doesn't connect with me, I'm like, hey, nice talking to you. Keep it moving. There's no need for me to know your name if it's in passing and it's a cool conversation. I probably will never talk to you again, but that moment was needed.
You know what else I noticed, right? Mm-hmm. Like to your point, that does happen. But another thing that I noticed is like, you mentioned that like, okay, when like if women or anybody, like they don't really get to know themselves, they don't have the natural inclination to like explore the people in front of them, right? Yep. So they're not like naturally inquisitive, right?
Yeah.
And they might be inquisitive to, discover what you are, right?
Yeah.
But they don't really know how to go deep. And when I say they, I'm not only picking on women. There's people in general who don't. But I'm only speaking to women because that's who I've spoken to in this space romantically, right? So one thing that I noticed, which is annoying, but I'm starting to like accept the fact that this is just what it is, right? Like I could spend a good 5, 10, 20 minutes, maybe half an hour getting to know somebody, right? And I'll be like very inquisitive. I'll ask very deep questions and they'll be divulging. Sometimes it gets emotional, and they'll just like divulge information. And then I'll just be kindly listening, right? And asking follow-up questions, like in a genuine way. Like I want to know like, what's up? You know what I'm saying? And then when they realize they're at a point of vulnerability, they're like, oh my God, you know so much about me. I don't know anything about you. And you know what they say? They're like, tell me about yourself.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, what do you hey, what?
Listen, bro. Jeff, when I tell you I'm a long lost brother, I knew that since we connected on Clubhouse. When I tell you, bro, listen, that's why I don't have any words right now, because I'm like, Jeff, just It's
true.
Bro, listen, I was on a date maybe a couple months ago, right? Do you mind if I relate to you on this?
I don't. Hey, go to town, man. You're on stage.
Listen, man. I was on a date a couple months ago.
Okay.
And this young lady, I'm asking, like just like you said, asking her questions, getting to know about her, listening, genuinely listening, getting to know her, listening, asking follow-up questions to really understand her story, her perspective of life, things of that nature. And I was like, yo, we should go to another location. Let's continue this conversation.
Okay.
Mind you, she hasn't really asked me any questions about myself or anything. I'm more so just keeping the conversation going. And so we go to this next spot, we getting some juice, some fresh squeezed juice. And we find a spot to sit, we're talking. And she's telling me more and more about her life.
Of course. Venting
right?
session.
And I'm listening, asking follow-up questions. And I get to a point where I'm like, yo, I'm keeping this conversation going. And it's getting tiring. Because
it's like, you're exhausting.
Listen,
this is work.
Listen, bro. She wasn't exhausting. She made it. She exhausted me by putting me in a position to listen for too long.
Okay.
She exhausted my listening bank.
You had a cap. Your listening bank had a salary cap.
It had a salary cap, and so there's only so much I could pay attention. I paid a lot of attention.
Yeah, your attention ran out of funds.
It ran out of funds.
It was insufficient funds in the attention bank.
Listen, and she got an overdraft fee, which was me not going on another date, right? But here's the thing. Here's the thing. We're supposed to deposit into each other's bank when we talk to each other, right? And that there was no deposit. So when she was done doing all the speaking, she got to a point where she was like, well, I don't think she would have gotten to that point if I wouldn't have become silent. So I use a tool that I talk about in my new book called You Ask Engaging Questions, Now What? 4 response tools to deepen your connection. And so one of the tools in my book is called validation to summarization. And you can use this tool in 3 different ways. And one of the ways you can use it is when you want to exit the conversation, or one of the other ways you can use it is when you want to give them the space to ask a follow-up question. Got it. And so I, of course, validated what she said. I summarized it as well too. And then I went quiet.
Looking creepy as hell.
Right. And she's like, so,
just like, your move, sucker.
Listen. She's like, you know a lot about me. Like you said, I don't know anything about you.
And why is that? Why is that?
Because you've been talking, no awareness, right? So then she said, so tell me about yourself.
Oh, God. I just want to jump out the window.
I appreciate it. And so I stopped. I was almost offended. I ain't gonna lie to you. And I talk about it in my new book, how to handle conversations when you're offended too. And I was almost offended. I caught it. I said, I appreciate you for wanting to explore me as well. But what are some things specifically you want to know about?
Word. What do you want to know? What's important for you to know? And then let me guess. They're like, same questions you asked me. I'm like, bro, all right, find me the nearest window because I'm jumping out of it. Like, you want me to just repeat the conversation I had with you and get like, how do you?
You don't want to put the work in. You don't want to put the work into this conversation. That means you don't value.
You got to carry the conversation for yourself and carry her part of the conversation. And she's just.
When you do your clips and when you do your segments, this part needs to be put as clickbait on YouTube because it's so true. I got to carry my conversation in yours.
Yeah.
How unfair is that? And that comes down to not having the right conversation tools in order to attain and maintain that man.
Right.
She was so good looking, so in shape, had a great career, the house and all that stuff, had a side business. But you don't know how to have a conversation with men that really connect and keep them around. Because I guarantee you, if she did, she would have had me head over heels for her. You got the starter package. You look really good. Curves, body, yada, yada. You're ambitious. You got a nice house. You got your car, right? You got your business. You have your sense of purpose and passion on the side of your job. But you don't even know how to have conversation. So by the way, she did go to therapy as well too.
You mean after meeting you or before?
Before. So she was in therapy before, so she understood herself to a certain extent, which is why it was easy for her to share her stories with the questions I was asking. But she missed the part of being inquisitive herself concerning me. Or knowing what questions to ask or knowing how to respond in the conversation. And that's what I help you with in that gap.
You know what? I kind of blame men too, right? Because settling, that's definitely a term to use in that context. But like, it's more so like, I don't think a lot of men hold women to enough of a standard to be like intriguing in conversation, because a man will date a woman who is relatively silent, spew his guts about things that matters to him. She barely has to say anything but look cute and order drinks, and he'll still take her out on a second date. What are you communicating?
Man, that was. Hold on, pause the music for a second. Let that breathe. Crickets, crickets. Jeff, I swear you are my long lost brother. And I love every part of what you just said. I agree with every morsel, every sentence, every period, everything you just said.
Okay.
I agree with it. You want to know why?
Why?
I always say this. Men, we've set the bar so low for women, conversationally, like you said, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier. They believe I just got to show up and look good. Yeah. I got to show up and look good. Yeah. If I show up and look good, most men, we're so enamored by good looks, big booties, nice curves, all these things that we'll do anything we can just to get that.
Just to get to get next to it.
Just to get next to it. But when a man has done self-work on himself and he knows who he is, he knows his value. Yeah. He knows how to navigate his uncomfortable thoughts and feelings and get to the root of why he really wanted something or what's really going on. He becomes dangerous to a woman who hasn't done the work on herself and doesn't have great conversation skills. Yeah. Because you can go get the other guys that you want. Go ahead. But I guarantee you won't be fulfilled with them long term. You can go. If you don't work with these conversation skills.
A lot of them don't they don't come to that conclusion until it's too late anyway, because I asked this woman one time, I was like, yo, what's the craziest first date you ever had? Mind you, I was just having a phone conversation with her. I don't even think I had taken her out yet. She's like, yeah, somebody, what is it? We went on a flight and went to Vegas. And I'm like, okay, right? So I imagine there's a lot of extravagance going on, right? And to me, if I'm conversing with her, right, even if I don't find her interesting, right, and I don't think I ended up taking her out, right? I didn't find her necessarily interesting as a person or the type of person that I really connected with, but even if I were to say to her, I didn't say it, I probably should have, but I didn't. It wasn't necessary. That like, oh, I didn't really like talking to you, right? But even if I had said that, even if that's the truth, as long as there's a guy willing to like
accept,
not just accept, but like reward her for just existing.
Ooh.
It doesn't really matter how much of a bar I put, as long as guys are continuing to like reward bad behavior. That's just my like perception of the landscape. So yeah. You all right?
Man, that hit me like a ton of bricks, bro. Woo!
I feel like words are like gunshots to you. Like, whoa!
They are. They are. Like thoughts and precepts, which you're really big on, they hit me on a deeper level than most, probably, because that's a part of my purpose is to capture, conceptualize, and communicate thoughts, principles, and ideas that push society forward in a positive way. So when I hear certain things, it hits me on a deeper level, and I visualize it. And what you said was so powerful, bro. Okay. You said women are going to, and here's why I hate the narrative that women don't have as many options as men. Stop. That's not true. Because like you said, you were not going to go out with her. Like, okay. You probably didn't even tell her, well, I didn't enjoy your conversation. Right. But there's some guys going to be out there that's going to reward her existence instead of her actually putting that work into being the best possible version of it that she can be for herself to connect with the man, like play a part in connecting with, in this thing. Don't put it all on me.
So when you say, wait, in your perception, who has more options in the romantic marketplace?
Women.
Okay. Explain that.
Men do a lot of pursuing
Okay.
by happenstance. Now, there are certain men who do get hit up by a lot of women, get contacted by a lot of women. I get that too. It's not get it twisted. So by sheer numbers of the women, there are going to be a lot of women coming to that man. But when it comes to true options, women, especially a good-looking woman, has more options than men just willing to do more. I can have a lot of women interested, but there's a difference when I have a lot of women interested versus a lot of men who are interested in a woman and they're willing to do. They're willing to do things to get in her presence or have access to her body, whatever it may be. Women are just, I'm going to show my interest in you, but that willing to do is not there like it is for a man. I'm willing to put myself out there, and, express my interest to you and, make myself open. You know what I'm saying? Women have this thing to play it cool more than to actually be like, hey, here, I've been watching you for a while. I think you're dope because of this. I would love to get to know you more, right? Okay. But not many women are doing that.
But it depends on what you consider options, right? If you consider options as how many DMs you get or how many times somebody calls out your name.
You know what? Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I see where you're coming from. So I think women get more interest.
Right. So
than men. Okay.
A lot of women get more attention, but doesn't necessarily equate to retention. Okay. So basically a woman might get a lot of people hitting her up. In her mind, only 10%, if that, are really options in her mind. Mm-hmm. Right? And even the ones that are options, even if the 10% is a large number, right? Mm-hmm. Whichever guy she picks, she's probably picking him because he's the type of guy that's also got options.
Of course.
Okay? So even if she gets introductory interaction with that person, she's not guaranteed to keep that person for a multitude of things. Part of it is the thing that you're coaching. She might suck as a person. You know what I'm saying? So when you get to know her beyond how she looks or the things that made her attractive in the first place, and she doesn't carry anything else of value, she's going to constantly get hit up, but no one's going to want to stick around. Right? So to me, those aren't real options per se. Right? The other thing is by the sheer nature of the fact that she shrinks her pool based on her perception of her value, intrinsically she doesn't see a lot of options. It's kind of like when you have a craving for something and you go in the fridge that's full, you'll consider it empty because it doesn't have what you're particularly looking for. You know what I mean? So is options in the mind? You know what I mean?
I love how you thought about that, bro, and opened my mind up to seeing it in a different lens.
Right. I
love that perspective because, like you said, I think options are based upon someone's level of self-work. Because if you haven't done true self-work on yourself and got to know yourself to a certain extent, a lot of people can be options based upon just what society says you should have or what's attractive, or this person got some money, or this person looks good, or this person this, or this person that, or they have a nice personality. It's just so vast because you don't know yourself. And so anything that kind of excites you a bit can be an option. But when you start to get to know yourself a little bit more, or if a woman starts to filter men through their trauma, of course, those filters get smaller too. And people in general, I think options are based upon perception of self-perception. Uh-huh. Your self-perception determines how you perceive people, and that perception determines your options.
I'm gonna make it simpler, and it's gonna sound ratchet.
Go ahead.
Okay. Sometimes I like to say ratchet stuff, just to be blunt. an option is only an option if that option is willing to have a baby with you.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus.
Because here's the deal. Here's the deal. There are men who will date a woman for days, weeks, months, but don't really have any long-term plans with them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he'll dump you the moment he gets exhausted from you or something else better comes along. Was that man really an option? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Was he willing to invest in you long-term? If that's what you're looking for, are you looking for long-term options?
Well, hold on. Before you go there, because what you're saying is great. I want to catch the segue real quick before we go to that other place.
Okay.
Because there's this other middle ground of if a man is upfront and honest with you about where he may be in life, right? But you see the potential of him being greater than that. Like you saw that his past results, he may be in a transition, right? Hear me out. Some women will still count that man as an option, even though they desire something more than what he currently has at the moment.
Is it what he currently has or what he currently wants? I need to understand. What does the guy want?
No, I'm talking about what he currently has. So here's what I'm saying, because we're talking about what's defined as an option, right? Because say for example, you before you begin to grow your businesses and your career, right? You were in a transition. And you had the seeds of ambition in you. You've done some smaller things, but you were waiting for some other things to happen. You were waiting for it to really be where you want to be. But that woman kind of wanted the Jeff that was kind of where you are right now, instead of the Jeff in transition. And so
whether she wants, go ahead.
She wasn't true to herself because she wanted to date the potential of Jeff of who you are now versus the Jeff that was actually in the transition. If I'm making sense. So is Jeff in a transition really an option? Or do you really just want to be with the Jeff who the Jeff is right now?
I think regardless of if the person's in transition, the point is it's still, the transition is with the person that you are targeting, right? So whether they're where you want them, whether they are where you want them to be or they're in transition for it, the point is that's the vehicle you're choosing to explore for a particular reason. I'm talking about the people who know, right? Who know that like, I'm just enjoying the moment, right? And I'm exploring my option to hang out with you right now for the, whatever foreseeable future. But I'm not really content in saying that you are my everything. You are forever in my life. You know what I mean? So if you're looking for a 2-month option or a 2-year option, that person might be an option. But if you're looking for a forever option, that person might not be an option, even though they're in your life today. So is that really an option? That's why there's a lot of like fine women, right, who are of a certain age and can't keep a man, but they got a lot of options because they're filling in their DMs. They've been in relationships, but nobody wants to stick with them. You know what I mean? So how many options do they really have? There's a lot of lonely, very sexy women, right? It's true.
Options do you really have?
What are we talking about? Think about
are you an option for 2 months or you're an option for a lifetime with this man?
What are we talking about? Think about how many video vixens are sought after, but can't find a man.
But you know what though? Sometimes a man can give off the front that he wants this woman to be a forever option, but in his mind, she's like a temporary option.
Yeah, he's not really, the man's not one of her options.
So I guess when you put it that way, we level the playing field.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I'm with you.
Like, come on. But I think a lot of men have more options for women who want like long term. You know what I'm saying? They might not have a lot of options for just like sexual exploration, right? If that's what they're looking for, right? Women have that, right? But men probably have a lineup of women that are willing to get in relationships, commitment, and like long-term longevity, right? But guys are curving a lot of those women because they still want to explore, they still want to do their thing, especially if they're a guy of any sort of means and access to like people and things like that, right? I don't know. That's just been my experience and my
Chuck,
understanding. What
you just said,
What?
you successfully debunked what I was thinking in my mind by giving no, and this is a good thing. I'm learning by giving clarity to what options really are. Do you really have options, or do you just have a lot of sex interest?
Yeah.
Right? But men, we do have more options when it comes to long-term relationships and marriage-minded women. We do have more options when it comes to that.
Yeah. If you look at all your past relationships, right, as a man, and I invite any man who's had healthy long-term relationships, right, they've probably been the one, this is just being cliche as hell, who was in a relationship with a woman who wanted something long-term, and he might not have been in a position to, like, he probably was tiptoeing around the long-term. But that woman was still option for long-term. He just didn't exercise that option.
He didn't exercise the option.
You see what I'm
or
saying?
he didn't have the means to exercise the option, but still wanted her around.
Well, I think it's different. If it's because you don't have the means, that's different. It's having the interest.
When I say means, Jeff, I see with this corner you're turning.
Yeah.
When I say means before you turn the corner, I'm talking about means not financially only. I'm talking about the means emotionally. Maybe there was some things that popped up in his life that he didn't even know was going on with him, that he didn't know how to process certain thoughts or feelings or traumas, and that could have broken things up too, because that happens as well. And so having the means just on different levels to keep this woman around that really wants something long-term with you, because it could be more than money.
I think all he has to do is like have the desire
to change and grow.
Not change, have the desire towards that woman for long, whether he has the ability to do it or not, right? She's going to determine how much of that is sustainable for her. He might be insecure about something that is probably not that significant, right? Because she's going to be the one to kind of like evaluate and determine that. But if she's interested, right, and he's interested in her long term, he might not have the know-how to make it work the way he wants to, but it's still an option because they can figure it out, because as long as they desire each other. You know what I mean? I'm talking about when one person desires this person for what they want, and then the other person is not desiring the same thing. That's when it's like not an option.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
see what you're saying. And so I'm 1,000% with you on that. And I love that we were able to discuss this for my clarity's sake and for others who are going to listen to this and see this, because this is very good, and I hope people are paying attention to what an option really is. Do you really have options?
Exactly. So let me ask you a question. So give me an example of like what a woman can do in a conversation or has done in a conversation with you that exhibited like proper conversation etiquette with someone of interest.
You really, really turned the corner with this one. I'm loving to discuss this.
Okay.
When the woman has the ability to validate before she answers.
What does that mean?
When she has the ability to validate what you said or how you feel. And if she maybe doesn't agree with what you just said, she can validate how you felt about what you said. And instead of becoming argumentative, exploring more about the root of what was being said.
Like, give me an example of how that would sound.
So say, for example, if I'm talking to a woman, right? And she asked me a question about something and I gave her an answer, right? She asked me, what's your thoughts on, I don't know, give me an example, Jeff. What's your thoughts on getting the COVID vaccine? Let's be political. I don't know.
Oh, that's going to, that gets kind of hairy.
Right? What's your thoughts on getting the COVID vaccine? Say if I answer and say, you know what? I'm not really desiring to get the COVID vaccine simply because I believe the antibody, I've already had COVID. I believe the antibodies can fight it, sometimes better than the vaccine because we have to keep on getting boosters, right? I say something like that. Or the COVID vaccine attacks the proteins of the virus, but not the actual virus itself, or whatever. We start going into that. So instead of her getting offended or say if she's really for the vaccine, and saying, "Oh my goodness, that's dumb. That doesn't make any sense. Like you can harm a lot of people if you don't get the vaccine. Why are you not getting the vaccine? It doesn't make any sense, right?" And that's almost like a normal response for some people. Instead of saying, "You know what, I can see your viewpoint on that of not wanting to put something in your body that you don't understand everything about. What about this vaccine makes you really skeptical?" Like, start to really explore the man and validate what he just said first. Yeah. Before you dive into your spiel of why your reasoning may be right. You're not in this conversation to win. You're in this conversation to connect.
Got it.
And so that's why when I've experienced a woman who can validate first what was being said, or even what I felt, even if she didn't agree, and has the ability to turn the corner and explore it, that's just one thing. Another thing is if I'm sharing something with the woman, about an experience or something I've learned, and say if she actually experienced something similar or she learned it too. But traditionally, some people are like, "Oh, me too. Yeah, me too. I learned that too." And they kind of take over the conversation. When I wasn't really finished speaking and giving my full story or experience. And it's like, hey, now I feel like you just hijacked the conversation. I don't even know if I want to continue speaking much more about it now.
Yeah.
And so, but when a woman is able to discipline herself to fully listen to what's being said, even if you can't relate, fully discipline yourself to listen and, have that patience and say, "You know what, I love that about your story," or, I'm glad that you experienced, whatever it is, validate that what I've told you. And then, now I'm giving away some tools in my book. This is called validation to relation. And this is when you validate what someone said to you, and then you relate to it. But you don't just hop off the porch and relate to it. You validate it, and then you ask them, "Hey, you mind if I relate to you on that?" I kind of said that to you earlier, in the conversation.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that I have the permission to relate to you on that. Also to transition you to get in the passenger seat and to be a listener. And so it's when I see certain things like that, when a woman can discipline herself conversationally, and because it's about how you make someone feel when you talk to them. Do you give them anxiety when they're sharing things with you? Do you give them anxiety when they're listening to you? Right? Do they feel neglected conversationally? Right? So that stuff like that, that's a turn on for me, big time.
It's funny you say that, right? Like, to explore the person and validate. There's a sneaky trick that I use to kind of gauge, like, it's not ratchet. It's no, it's like, so here's the deal, right? So like sometimes I'll be having a conversation with someone, especially like if I'm out with a lady, and I'll be like, she might ask me a question, right? And I'm not really sure if she's just making conversation or if she's like genuinely intrigued. So I'll be conversing, and I'll tell her like my story and the things that are occurring in response to what she asked, and then I'll if there's an opportunity where there's a moment of distraction, like something that happened in this environment that we're in. Look at you, your neck. Something of distraction that might occur, or I might create the moment of distraction, right? And then I'll be like, "Wait, that was weird," and then I'll come back and be like, "Wait, what were we talking about? What were we talking about again?" And then if she's like, "Oh, I actually don't know," then I'm just like, then don't worry about it, right? You know what I mean? And versus like there are some women where they're like, "No, you were saying how like in high school you were coming back, da da da," and I'm like, girl. I'm gonna be honest. I do that sometimes just to like see how much they can recall, because there's a lot of people they're just like passively listening, and I've been guilty of it too. Like in front of people that I just don't really care what you have to say. I've been in those situations, so I can also vet for it. You know what I mean? Like no, because remember, like sometimes it'll happen where I don't even need to wait for a moment of distraction. the conversation will pivot to like something else before I completed a thought 10, 15 minutes ago, and she'll come back to that. Yeah, but what were you telling me about that one job you had when you said, and I'm just like,
when she say that, bro.
I'm like, ooh, you care? You care? Oh my God, you care.
Yo, it makes you feel like safe.
Yeah, that's real.
It's like, I love that story. First of all, you are a genius, evil genius. With testing.
I don't give a damn. I do it quite often. Sometimes I do it subconsciously, but whatever.
But first, I would have never thought to do that. But that's the dopeness of your mind and how you think about things. But I noticed on Clubhouse, how you think about things and how you kind of see around the corner. Yeah. You're like very, very clever. And I love it. But the feeling you said you got when they were able to recall or bring it back and explore that in you, I don't know if women understand the impact that has on a man. When a man feels like, I'm heard. Yeah. Because there's this thing, and I'm going to talk about this more. There's this thing where women don't feel like men want to be heard. It's not feminine because a man wants to be heard, right? I know that, back in the caveman days, men will go gather and hunt and all these things. We're not living in a society where we're marrying for survival anymore. No. Now we want to marry to build wealth and build partnership and things of that nature and get involved. But we're marrying for love and choice and the intentionality and partnership. And so the skills you bring to the table have to be totally different. Men and women are being revealed to be a lot more the same than we think. Okay. And women have to understand, men, we want to feel heard. Yeah. We want to feel safe when we're talking to you. And so when you're able to validate us, when you're able to pivot and explore us, when you're able to not be patient in your listening and not take over a conversation and make it about you all over again when trying to relate to them, which is honorable, it's great. And of course, I talk about the 4 responses you can have in any conversation that makes people like feel safe and stimulated, right? Like that's what it's about, man. That's what it's about. So you just gave an example of that.
It's crazy. So like sometimes in conversation, I already know what the sex will be like, right? I'm about to walk out the door. Here's what I mean, right? Like the rule of thumb that like me and my brothers like have cultivated, like in talking to like a woman of interest, is like it's the 80-20 rule, right? You let her talk about herself 80% of the time, and you talk about yourself 20% of the time, because oftentimes I think men get in a lot of trouble where they just start talking about themselves and whatever, which is fine. But it speaks to the culture of like a lot of women don't really, they like to open up naturally if you ask the right questions, and that's what makes them feel connected, right? But I think it speaks volumes when I've been in conversations with women where like I'm trying to find out about them and ask what the questions, and they're like, no, enough about me. Enough about me. I want to know about you. Tell me about and they're like, they won't let me dig because they want to dig. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's like, I know what it's going to be like, when the lights are off. Listen. You know what I'm saying? I know what it is because you give a damn. You know what I'm saying? Like you not just, you know what I'm saying? You're not just trying to receive, like you a whole giver. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I gauge it. I'm just like, I know what it's going to be like. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Again, you just did it again. You just read my mind. Here's the thing, bro. What you said was so spot on. That's why I'm like, have my hand on my head. It's so spot on. What you said, everything you just said, 80-20, and then that woman trying to, let's take it from 80-20 to 50-50.
Word. Right? Exactly.
Right. I know you're going to try to please me and explore me. Yeah. I want to explore you too. I'm going to put this work into exploring you too. Yeah. So it's not like, again, so conversationally, she's not just starfishing on the bed.
Oh my God. Here we go.
Right.
Starfish.
A lot of women conversationally starfish. Or
wait. I want you to tell people what starfish means because they might not know what it is.
that's when you just lay on the bed, on your back, legs open, both ways, arms out, and you look like a star. And you're just receiving what the man is giving you, but you're not putting any work into giving him anything. And so, but here's the other caveat too.
A lot of men don't realize that they're necrophiliacs. It's true. It's true. I had to say it, bro. I had to say it. Because at the end of the day, it's like, what are you really doing? Yeah, it gets ratchet on here, man.
Oh my God, we had Hannibal Lecters around here, man. Yo, that's so true. Well, that's the thing too, because we dead too. Because they're not having the great conversations or whatever. Some are. But here's the thing: a woman can not only be a starfish in a conversation. I need to actually make some Instagram posts about this conversational starfish, right? But a woman can also be a bull. Like she can
be what?
A bull. Like she can ride you in a conversation. There's some women who want to get an orgasm so badly, they don't even want you to do nothing to them. Some women who just want to get their nut.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Let's be real. They will hop on. No. If they just want to get their nut, they'll hop on top of you.
Yeah.
And they'll ride you as if they're striving to get their orgasm.
And they'll cover your face to make sure you don't say nothing stupid.
Probably like the pillow over your face. Who knows? But they don't really care about you getting yours. So they just want to hop on top and grind you and find their spot and get their nut. Like that. There's women who do that too. They don't really care about pleasing you and coming to explore you. All right, let me get mine. I'm gonna get mine right at the top. Yeah. Right. And so a woman can be both ways, where it's like she's doing too much, but she's asking way too many questions and not giving you the room to try to turn the corner and get to know more about her. Right. And that's that interviewer type conversationalist, where there's nothing wrong with asking questions, but you're not validating this man. You're not giving room for him, because when you validate somebody, you give them the room to explore you as well too.
So let me ask you a question. Like, give me an example of like how men screw it up conversation.
So in what scenario? Let's talk about it.
I mean, so right now you deal with a lot of people who want to converse better to find partners, I imagine. Right?
Yeah.
So what are some ways that men screw it up in conversations?
Big time. Okay, I got you covered. One is they talk about sex way too early, or just at all.
Okay. Talk to me about that.
You know how you said you can tell how the sex is going to be just from the conversation, right?
Uh-huh.
I think if more men focus on conversation and the content of a person, you can tell what the sex is going to be like. You can even tell how quick they are willing to give you sex by their ability to converse with you, right?
Okay.
Because if you're focused on asking engaging questions that help this woman paint pictures and evoke emotion, right? Her willingness to answer certain questions and bring you into her life and not be shallow about those answers tells you about her openness towards you. Her willingness to even validate you or explore you, like you just talked about, lets you know that she's willing to put some energy into this thing too.
Okay.
She's interested now too, because a woman is not really interested until she starts asking real questions. But she's not interrogating you, right? But she's asking real questions. It's a difference. And so if you stay away from the sexual comments, I don't talk about sex at all when I talk to women. I just get to know them. I'm so intrigued with who they are. But if I feel that blockage and I can't really dive into who they are, I already know I don't have access to you physically, or I don't even want access to you physically. So men mess it up initially by mentioning sex too early in the conversations. There's nothing wrong with being flirty about it when the right time comes, but the whole course meal is about getting to know the contents of her.
Yes, I agree with that. But you mentioned something like when the right time comes. That right time comes. Do you feel like there's a particular appropriate time to talk about sex?
Yes, I do.
When is that time?
Thank you for asking that question and bringing it out. Here's where it's the right time. When there's something that happens that has a sexual innuendo.
Okay.
And the woman, sometimes if the woman can like look at you and kind of like laugh about it, like something happened where both you guys kind of noticed something. It was like a sexual innuendo type thing. It's like, but something was said by a party or something is seen by both of you guys, and you guys both catch it and can laugh about it and kind of joke about that. You can kind of see, because if a woman is not sexually open with you or even with herself, she won't even like joke with you about the innuendo that she said or what he said. She just kind of leave it off the table. But that's like the beginnings of it.
So I like the answer you gave, and it's a valid response. But I think there's also another element of, as a man and a woman, what are you looking for in that interaction, right?
So go ahead, because I was gonna say there's a way to ask about these things, because if sex can come up in a litany of ways. So especially when you're exploring spirituality, right? Especially if you're dating a woman who is more on the journey of abstinence at the moment, things of that nature. So especially, I attract a lot of like churchy girls. I ain't gonna lie.
Churchy girls.
Yeah, like really.
Pastor's daughter.
Man, a lot of those too, right? So because
you're always hollering at folks in church. That's why.
Not even. I
don't know why, but I attract a lot of churchy girls. In church, maybe?
Not even in church. Not even in church. No, not even in church. It's different discussion. But
okay, Sunday school.
Right. All right. I'm in Sunday school. Why I keep attracting churchy girls? No, that's not even it. But it's more so. If a woman is talking about her spirituality, you can kind of see it evident even on her page if you connect with her on Instagram or it's a dating app. If you guys are just exploring spirituality, you ask her a question like, when you're facing hard times in life, what do you turn to and who do you turn to? As they bring up, hey, I believe in God, I love Jesus, whatever it may be. Okay, great. How does that impact? How does that influence? How does your relationship with God influence how you operate in a relationship, right? Whether it be your boundaries sexually, your boundaries, whatever it may be. You can explore that going through that vein too.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be sexual things like, how do you like, what positions you like? No, bro. But you can explore their relationship with sex early on too.
Well, I think the what you said is valid, but what I guess the angle that I'm aiming at is like, there are people that are only looking for a sexual relationship. Right. And it could be mutual, right? Sometimes a woman is looking for a sexual relationship and you want to talk about ponies and, stuff like that. And even though you might be interested in a sexual relationship, but you don't want to like be too, forward.
Abrasive.
Right.
Yeah.
So like there's levels to like understanding what you want and being honest and open about it. Right. And you could talk about it in a very like articulate way and confident way, in a respectful way. Right. And you can bring that up pretty early if that's what you're looking for, right?
Right.
But if you're looking for something more and deeper and meaningful and long-term lasting and you want to get to know somebody so you can see compatibility, then yes, I can understand the value in like not really talking about it too up front. But even if you do talk about it too up front, there's a way to talk about it in a joking way where it's like being open and honest. You know what I mean? Like I've had moments where like I might not like I might not be interested in being intimate with that person at that moment, but I let them know that I'm attracted to them in that way. Like I don't want, because then that's how people end up in a friend zone so early in the game. You see what I'm saying?
So, man, you're saying so much valuable stuff right now, and I'm like, yo, I want to. Do you mind if I chime in really quick?
No, go ahead.
Oh my goodness! All right, so where do I start? I think you said everything that needed to be said about people knowing their intentions and just being honest about that.
Yeah,
because that's the big cesspool of the dating pool has pee in it, because people not being honest with their intentions, or they can know their intentions but are in a temporary lull of not dealing with some uncomfortable thoughts and feelings, and so they're going around hoping until they deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really just being aware of who you are, what you want at this moment in your life. Even if you had long-term goals, but then you had a stage of, man, I just kind of want some short-term pleasure right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And being honest about every stage where you are right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So you hit that on the head. Now you're talking about not getting friend zoned. Of course, yeah. So you don't have to talk about sex in order to not get friend zoned, but you can mention, hey, I think you're fine. Of course, I appreciate
fine, not just fine.
Listen,
fine.
Fine. Of course, I let a woman know. Of course, I appreciate all the curves you have. I mean, when I say you look good, you look good. But I'll let them know that I do want to explore more of you on different levels. That's going to be there. And I'm here for all of that. When the right time comes, I'm going to enjoy all of that. Let's lock it.
That reminds me of a clip I saw of this guy who was like incarcerated and he was going to court. I don't know if you saw this clip. This guy, he was in a prison jumpsuit and like the prosecutor was this woman who I guess was attractive. And he came out there. He was in handcuffs in a jumpsuit, in the defendant podium or whatever. And the lawyer or the prosecutor was like saying something to the judge. And then when it was time for him to speak, he just looked at her. He said, "Girl, you thicker than a bowl of oatmeal." I was like, in the courtroom, I was just like,
thicker than a bowl of oatmeal?
Hey, she had a fat ass, you know what I mean? I want to see.
Hey man, that man bold right there. Lock him up. But he bold.
He bold, lock him up.
You thicker than a bowl of oatmeal, girl. I was like, damn.
But you know what? To be honest, bro, I love that you brought that point up and that reference up because women love that stuff.
Let's be careful now. Let's be careful because some people will call it catcalling depending on the scenario.
No. What you're saying is right, and that's there we go. Depending on scenario. In the scenario that a woman likes a man, or she thinks he's.
But some men don't know when that point is.
When a woman is interested.
Yeah. They don't know. They might be like, oh, because she showed up, or because she's standing in front of me, I can say that she likes me. I'm just saying, there's guys who are clueless and not know the signs, so they say the things preemptively, assuming they're where they need to be, and then they end up disrespecting somebody. That stuff happens all the time. Can you believe what he said to me?
That does happen all the time. I think men resort to that again if they're not looking for something long term. Even if you are not looking for something long term, certain things you don't say straight up front like that to certain women, or women in general, right? Because even if you're not looking for something long term, you still can explore their mind a bit,
right?
And then once you kind of got to feel that they're interested through their time with you and talking to you, like, listen. Mm-hmm. Then you can kind of drop those things along the way when you know she's sensually interested in you too. If a woman has expressed physical attraction towards you by the way she touches you or the way she embraces your embrace, when you hug her, like there's certain signs a woman will give.
If you grab her hand, does she grab it back?
You grab her hand, you grab it back, right? And certain things, or when she kind of touches your stomach lightly, when she has to say something to you, like, where did you say this was? Like, she does certain things to let you know I'm attracted, right?
We're getting to the weeds of like nonverbal communication, and
we are, but it's a part of conversation though. But
sure.
We are, but it's true. Hopefully, some fellas are listening to this and they're like, "All right, they right."
So what's been like your relationship journey? Are you in a relationship right now?
Not currently. Right now, I'm focused on really pushing forward what I have going on with my passion projects, my brand, my business. And then I'm not closed off to dating at the moment. I am open to conversations, but I'm also not in the space of just haphazardly pursuing anybody right now. I want it to happen organically. I was in a stage before where I was striving to get to know different people and get numbers. And I'm like, I'm in a stage right now where I'm like, it has to happen organically for me at this stage. And I'm also just focused on loving me and enjoying myself and the relationships I have in my life with my family and my close friends, So I'm sure that in this time frame of me enjoying my friends and my family and enjoying myself, it'll happen organically.
Okay, that's
But
fair.
here's the thing: I'm prepared for it when it happens.
Okay.
So,
Well, that's good to know. Hopefully, whoever's listening to this might hit you up on your DM. Listen, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with the conversation coach. Do you have any way for people to get in touch with you? Do you have any programs coming up that people can take part in?
yeah, man. And I thank you for saying you enjoyed it, because I've enjoyed this conversation thoroughly, so much. So you guys can find me on Instagram at I'mDariusBrown.com. Not I'm. Just I am, right? Darius Brown. And you can go to my website, I'mDariusBrown.com, same thing. And I have quite a few books you guys can benefit from when it comes to conversation. The first book is You Got the Digits, Now What? 104 Early Dating Questions that you can ask to build memorable conversations. You guys can download that. And also my new book, which is You Asked Engaging Questions, Now What? 4 response tools to deepen your connection that you'll definitely need along with those questions to have great conversations that connect and go deeper.
Right on. My name is Jeff Damisse. You guys can find me on IG at j.damisse or Twitter at j_damisse. If you want to connect with the club, Introspect Club, you can connect with me or the club at Introspect_club. That's on everything. That's IG, Twitter, Patreon, Clubhouse, whatever you want. Just connect that way. If you guys have any questions you want answered on the podcast, please hit us up at in our DMs on the Introspect_club for IG. And if you are someone who has a unique experience or live a very interesting life that other people can learn from in any way, shape, or form, hit me up. I might be able to get you on the show. Listen, Darius, this was a beautiful experience, man. Thank you.
Indeed, brother. It was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experience, brother. This is really good.
Well, until next time, man.